Alright guys, greetings and salutations. Can't dropping that metal clip or latch on the glass, scratch it. Sounded pretty loud. Oh, that brings up a good point. I noticed when I bring my parts over to the cleaner, it sounds like I'm smashing them, beating them all up and putting them in there, and it sounds really rough. And I don't know why. It's just picking up a lot of echo in the workshop down here in the basement. Kind of a vinyl tile floor, large open space. It seems to echo, and then of course I'm just using basic microphone with no gain settings or any background noise blocker or nothing. So it gets very loud. Noises that don't really seem loud at all, it picks up as pretty noisy when I go back and watch. But no, that didn't do anything. No, this is actually really, really high quality glass. And then another time I saw someone write a comment about the way that I handle the clocks, like the clock deserved more care or something like that. And when I first started servicing, I was like that too. I would, so carefully take everything off and be, conscious and careful about everything. But as you gain confidence with them and whatnot, you start to just handle them like you handle, your everyday things. And it's not like I'm rough or I'm damaging anything. It's just that I'm not being so over precautious with them. Do these quite often. Do a lot of Atmos clocks. This is actually one of the most dangerous parts of the whole thing right here. It's taking the hands off. Gotta make sure that comes up straight. I get it. They're very solidly built. Yeah. Well, mostly it's the microphone picking up echoes that makes it sound a lot louder than it really is. But then too, there are other times people kind of said, how YouTube comments can get. But there was a guy who was like a Timex watch deserves more care than you just gave that Atmos or something because of the way that I was kind of manhandling it or whatever, grabbing a hold of it. And I remember seeing that too when my dad was servicing them. I was like, wow, you're kind of rough with that thing, like it, but once you know them and you really do a lot of them, you'll be grabbing it just the same, you'll be swinging it around and just kind of like everything, it becomes a job, and you have to buckle down and get to work. You gotta get through stuff. And another thing too, when you're first learning something, the entire object is committed completely to your concentration. And as it becomes repetitive and you become so accustomed to doing it constantly, you start thinking about other things, and then, your task at hand is just kind of on autopilot in the background. Look at how delicate I am with the paper dial. Haven't even ripped one. Probably have ripped one. Here's a rare dial with the date on the back. 9/73 is what I think that says. And then there's all kinds of thumbprints. Like perfect thumbprints. No comment. Just love the live stream. Amazing clock. Oh, thank you. Michael, is that Michael Kenyon by chance? If that is Michael Kenyon, I just paid a little attention to your Atmos clock, if that's you. It needed the wire, as you know, suspension wire. And I am in the process of getting the weights and regulation figured out on that. The clock is running. It's right behind me running, actually, but not quite there on the timekeeping yet. My apologies if I said your last name and you didn't want that or something. And you know, I still am a little cautious while handling this stuff. It's not like I go full barbarian style on it. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's great. Yep, 9/19/73. 99999, huh? I haven't done an overhaul for a while. So much other aspects of this to tend to. That I am now here after a hiatus of some sort. A hiatus from Overhaul, that is. The rest of it is impossible to get away from. I love the blue screws and the more subtle pendulum detailing. The bullet marks as opposed to the big ridges, in my view. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a common opinion. A lot of people like the bullet holes or dimples or whatnot. Should probably look up what Curt actually calls that. You'd be surprised, there's actually like, I don't know, 6 to 8 different balance wheels. Kind of racing through this. Shouldn't be. Hang gotta go do some Christmas shopping, I guess, is the problem. Yeah, 519s are awesome. They're all awesome, but of course, you know, some of them are more preferred than others. What else should we talk about today? Should we talk about things that will get us kicked off of YouTube? Okay, that locking mechanism is going to need an adjustment. Could have been part of the operational problem. I can show you something here. This never works out too well, but this is unlocked right now, and you see how the lever is not fully all the way over? There's a little collar and a pin, and all those do with a spring-loaded pressure is to press upward and hold the balance wheel up and steady, and that's how it's locked. And that collar has slid around. It's got two V-shape angles that you turn, and then one will set up on top of the other. That's how it gains the height like that. But anyway, it's a screwed on fitting, and it's slipped around. And it happens. And that's kind of a way that your Atmos clock can stop on you without there really being an apparent reason, is if this balance wheel is rubbing on anything here or underneath, that locking mechanism can be a culprit too. If it's rubbing on that, it's going to stop your wheel. This is the entire timekeeping portion of the clock right here, this wheel, this rotating wheel. Okay, Colin says I paid $1,000 to have mine refurbished. That's awesome. Refurbished or just serviced, as in overhauled, or did you have your case redone too? Free 519s to the first 3 commenters. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. I have the small models from 1968, so I'm curious as to what it's worth. I still have the box. What it's worth? It's worth $1 million. No, to me it's worth a lot, but to you perhaps not. And then in the end of the day, it's worth whatever you can get for it. You can list it at for a very high price. It may not sell for a while, but that's where your price is at, you know. And price is a subjective thing. I think most of us realize that one guy can walk past a pair of socks listed for $6 and say, "Wow, $6 for that? That's, you know, way too high." Then the next guy walks past the same pair of socks and says, "Oh, $6? Oh, that's a good deal." And it doesn't necessarily mean that one is more wealthy than the other. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that at all. It's more like the way you personally value things and you know, ascribe a cash value, you know, a willing cash transaction to these items. That's Big Wally. He's talking to the postman. The postman will come and pet him and be his buddy. That we'll have to look at. I think they're going to be fine, but these jewels on the pallet fork come loose sometimes. And that's another reason why it's important to use low heat. Like my dryer box can be kind of dangerous, or cleaning solution that is also heated tank. Because the shellac that holds a lot of these jewels and things together can melt. Also, if you're using too harsh of chemical cleaner on it, you can dissolve that as well. All my screwdriver bits are getting kind of chewed up. What is our first, the bellows or the wire that drops to the clock? The bellows or the wire that first will drop to the clock? That will fail? It's hard to say. They're both pretty evenly matched, if you ask me. Yeah, and here we have a dry mainspring. What wears out first? Yeah, they're both pretty even. You'll run into 519s that have, and those are the 1950s models that have original wires and original bellows. Then you run into some that needed this or that, It's like, guessing which tire on your automobile is going to wear first, or whatnot. That kind of depends on the alignment, also the way that you drive your vehicle. So same thing with this is just hard to predict. There's obviously more of a technical, well, it's not necessarily true. I was going to say there's more of a technical aspect to the bellows, but the wire is as well. Because as you know, expansion and contraction occur, and if that wire were to expand and contract, you're not going to get very good timekeeping. Leave these out. So you never know. I mean, this one this is a 528, 1973. Probably has original bellow and original wire. So it's hard to say. It's anyone's guess. It's just kind of a trial and error type of a thing. But this mainspring is absolutely dry, and I know you've heard me say that before, and you probably think, oh yeah. But this one is bone dry. I mean, I can rub my gloves all over this here and nothing. So that was likely the cause of stoppage on that one. But again, you never know. It could be other aspects as well. Perhaps that mainspring dried out after the clock was stopped when it was tucked away in storage. You never really know, but they're kind of like educated guesses or hypotheticals, I guess. But I will now run this through the cleaner, and it's going to get a little noisy in here. And now it'll sound like I'm slamming all these parts around, but I'm really not. Well, now we can take a look at the locking mechanism there. Get that figured out. My box. There we go. So that just got twisted around. Not the typical cause. Typically it's this top collar that gets misaligned, but this time the bottom one. And then we have a very small spring that goes inside of here. So if you ever drop these, you'll end up with 2 pins and a spring. If you don't have the spring, the 2 pins aren't long enough to make contact, and those will get lost on you. And they do have an order in which they go in there. Wally. And there's a hole that screw lines up with. All right, change over time. This is random. I live next to a major road, and occasionally when large vehicles go by, you can very faintly feel it in the house. Would that affect the clocks running? I know they like to be still. Yeah, it can. It can, because like I mentioned, the balance wheel is the entire timekeeping apparatus of the Atmos clock. And its motion, its distance, and then its speed. So imagine if you were going to drive somewhere. You're going to go to the store. The fastest direction to the store is like a straight line. If you're zigzagging or weaving to the store, you're going to travel twice as far to get to the store as if you just went straight there. So the same thing can happen with this balance wheel. If it's wobbling, it's typically is going to slow down the timekeeping. But it could also do some other things too, because if it slows down enough, or it reduces the rotation or motion enough, you could also get time speeding up, because now it's ticking away a minute much quicker versus running around, coming back, tick off half a minute. Now it's just doing it right there. So that can also happen too, but for the most part, don't worry about it. We have the snowplow that comes by here too. You get expansion and contraction, different humidity levels, all kinds of things play it a part. And these are not, they're not digital timekeepers. They're not like the atomic clock, which is, you know, set based on the proton, or not a proton, but a light molecule as it reaches the surface of the Earth. A photon as it reaches the Earth from the sun, or anything like that. This is just a mechanical instrument, a precision mechanical instrument, but it does require a little bit of back and forth from the owners with the regulating and adjusting and things, and you know, hopefully you're not basing like the world's most important meetings and timekeeping decisions on the Atmos clock. It's more like a piece of art that also does provide you a service as well. You know, timekeeping. And time is relative anyway. There's only, what is it? There's like 23 3/4 hours in a day and things like this. You know, time is actually a construct just as much as inches or millimeters are. We could have very easily decided that we have to go through 2 winters for it to be 1 year, as much as we did 1 and 1, you know. Or perhaps it wouldn't even be called a year. We go through 2 winters and we call it an eon, and then we, you know. And this locking mechanism is a little dry here. So what I'm going to do with this one, after I just launched my pin out again, we'll make it a little easier on the owner by ever so slightly lubing the locking mechanism for him here. Not too much, not enough to be running all over the base, just enough to make that action more feasible. Alright, we better put our clock back on there before we get into trouble. This is always done with complete care because there's nothing protecting my wire now. It's just me and the wire here. So if I get in trouble, there's nobody to blame. Michael, perhaps you missed my question at 1904. 1904? Yeah, what it's worth. No, I mentioned that stuff. You could send me a photograph if you'd like. I can give you an appraisal if you want. I answered your question, but I suppose I answered it in a way that you didn't really like. Maybe you didn't even hear that. I'm only tightening that all the way down to test this, because otherwise I gotta go back and loosen it again. And there it is. Okay. So now we have to finish the movement. 1907, Rude. What, Rude asked me another question too? Oh, yes, I did miss your question. They run at, Colin Doherty says they run on barometric pressure, not temperature. Barometric pressure and temperature are correlated, Doherty. You can influence barometric pressure by raising and lowering temperature. It's called Boyle's Law. Mr. Rude, I don't see it. Would you mind asking me again? Joseph. Oh, David, look at everybody's hopping in here. I'll never get any work done. But thank you. I appreciate it. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Merry New Year's. How do they keep from winding so much when temperature can change 40 degrees in 24 hours? That's a very good question, Mr. Fitch. And it's kind of a complicated one. If you haven't seen my video on the winding system, I have a short video called Atmos Clock Winding System, and I do explain it there a little bit. But basically what's happening, Mr. Fitch, is the clock only adds the wind when it's necessary. For the most part, it can happen when it isn't necessary as well, but for the most part, it adds it when it's necessary based on the tensile strength of the spring, series of springs and counter springs in their tension, and as the main spring weakens, it allows that counter spring to retract further, and it will only retract if the bellow is also shrunken through temperature or barometric pressure. So those things have to be present in order to do so. Where problems can arise is if it's in the male and that bellow is shrunken down cold and it's shaken around enough, it can lodge that winding chain and arbor, and that coil spring will then have enough to add some more wind when it isn't necessary. Basically from being jostled around in combination with a shrunken bellow. But check out that video I made. It's pretty good. A lot of people like it. Best way to clean the metal, Mr. Colburn, is you, or Mrs. Colburn, I'm assuming Mr., is just with a damp rag, just a damp cloth. You never use any cleaning chemicals or anything like that. There is a clear coat lacquer finish on it, so you don't want to go and deteriorate that. This clock has a pretty rough case condition. But I'm going to go swap the movement from the cleaning solution into the rinse now, and I'll be right back. All right, thank you very much, guys, for the patience going through that. So we took it out of the cleaner, 7 minutes in a fine rinse solution. Take it to the air compressor, blow off the cleaning solution, put the parts in the rinse solution, which is alcohol-based rinse. Gets everything else off, loosens everything up that maybe didn't come off in the cleaner. Blow that off. Now put it on the homemade dryer box, small parts dryer, which could be used for numerous industries. By the way, I should produce these and sell them in mass quantity so I can actually get wealthy someday. But instead we just have the one for me in the Atmos clocks. On low heat and not for very long, because again, like I mentioned earlier, we don't want to damage the shellac that holds a lot of the jewels and whatnot together. But let's take a look at some of the questions here. Alright, Mr. Rude said, my clock runs 3 months perfect. The temperature changes in the room 1 to 2 degrees. I see hardly no difference as the chain. Is that normal? Yeah, that's another thing I mentioned in my videos, is you will never witness the clock actively winding. Look up Atmos clock winding system. It's one of my most popular videos, and also recently made, I think within the year. A lot of people like that. It breaks down a lot of things that aren't exactly obvious when looking at the schematic, like an engineering schematic of how the Atmos clock is put together and its components. It makes it seem like something you're going to actively see winding. Engineers have asked me about that, and it's unfortunately not the way that it works. The bellow doesn't wind the clock up from nothing. It only maintains the wind on the mainspring. You can't take an empty mainspring, put a bellow on it, and then suddenly the clock will pump up. It winds that mainspring one chain length of that, one link of the chain at a time, and typically around the change of the seasons. And you can maybe get lucky enough to hear it happen. I know what it sounds like because I have about 12 Atmos clocks running behind me that I occasionally will hear them do that sporadically, and you know, not on any type of schedule. The tensity of the mainsprings vary. There's a lot of variation in manufacturing. Just the rotation of the balance wheel is never consistently rotating the same length, the same speed. It's an accumulation, and what averages out is the timekeeping. Cool Brent. Yeah, I inherited the clock and my grandma seemed to clean it with a cleaner and rough. Yes. Yep, you can see that when the grandmas do that, you can literally see the wipe marks etched into the finish of the case. Typically Windex or alcohol cleaner. They wiped that lacquer right off, and now they're imprinting everything right into the base metal. Wondering if I'm able to get back to what it was. I do offer case restoration. You can take a look on my website. I also have lots of examples. I have a few on YouTube which are kind of low quality, but I do have better website posts called Workshop Blog Case Restorations, and if you type that in, you should see half a dozen or so, about 10 of them maybe, before and after photos of my case restoration work. And I do have 3 coming up that I'm going to be gold plating and making a video. I don't think it'll be live, but I will make a video while I'm plating some cases so you guys can see me do that. Yeah, the case has to be restored. Oh, thank you. Yep, thanks for watching. Do not move unless pendulum, and Mr. Doherty says, do not move unless pendulum is locked at one extreme or the other. You can lock in mid-rotation. He says never lock in mid-rotation. You can lock that typically when shipping, but yeah, at the end of the rotation is much more simpler if you're just stopping the clock at home. And happy holidays to you, Mr. Doherty. And I didn't intentionally leave Hanukkah out of that. It's just that Hanukkah's over with. But of course, happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, New Year's. What are some of the other ones? Just have a great time if you can get together with family and not be too scared of sicknesses and things, I think that's probably best. I don't know. It's hard. If you watch the news, you'll be frightened. I appreciate all of you tuning in and commenting and asking very good questions. And watching. Watching this is not something that I would have predicted people would like to do, but I can't be right about everything, so. Thanks, Michael. Clear answers. I have rest now, and go look at your video. Happy Christmas and a good 2022. Thank you very much, and same to you. I hope that 2022 will be a great year. For all of you tuning in. Thanks, man. Keep up the great work. These clocks are beautiful, and it takes a lot of skill to fix. Once I get a place, I want to keep it. I want to send it out to you to give it a fix and clean up. Merry Xmas. Yep, Merry Xmas, Mr. Coolbrin. Where are you located? You're not in the Netherlands, are you? Oh, no. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was asking if you're in the Netherlands. I thought you were perhaps either friends or related to Mr. Rude. He's in the Netherlands. I thought I saw Coolbrin as a Dutch last name, but maybe it isn't. Is the bellows made out of rubber? Bellows are made of stainless steel membranes put together like this with the accordion style. This is one I repaired or refilled. That one didn't need repair, it just needed to be refilled. Got another over here, repair job. While we're on the topic of bellows, I'd like to mention something to you. Sometimes on eBay you see photos demonstrate that it's a good solid bellow that you're gonna buy and that it's been filled and everything, and they let it expand on its own without any restriction, without the bands, without the drum, and that's a dangerous thing. That's how the leaks on the seam. There's a seam here where these are put together, and I had sealed one of them, and then for the next day, this one here, and then the next day all the others were leaking around it, and that's just a word of caution about allowing the bellow to over expand without any restriction on it. It can damage it. rubber is pretty porous, and the bellow is, you know, hermetically sealed, supposed to be, so that no gas escapes. And this is the main spring here. We're getting it lubed up nicely. Yeah, I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The North Star State, which is also known as Polaris, which JLC Jigglypuff incorporates and places quite a bit of emphasis on Polaris. They even have a watch named the Polaris. Or actually, it's a line. It's a Polaris line that they have a few models included in that line. I think I was looking at an ultra thin Polaris. How's everything good? Okay, good, good. And I did get my hair cut, but I didn't go look for the web camera. It was pretty busy, so I just skipped it. But eventually I will get a better looking web camera that hopefully will zoom in. I'll be able to kind of show you a little closer what's going on here. Dog hair. Gotta pick dog hair out of it sometimes. Yeah, sure. Not a problem. One day I can service the clock. I have quite a bit of work to do here. Sometimes my head is spinning with all this stuff I'm doing. I gotta loosen these back up now. The reason I do that, I loosen these bottom ones so I don't scratch the base plate when putting on this front movement stand. It can be kind of tight, so when you loosen these up, it gives you a little extra space. You can get that on there right without marring anything. Wait a minute, we're forgetting all kinds of things here. Gotta go back here too. We're skipping stuff. Go back here and make sure these are clear. They look pretty good. And then we have to lube them a little bit. Awesome job. Thank you, Easter Bunny. Colin Doherty asks, what is the gas? The gas is called ethyl chloride. Ethyl chloride. It is a gas at room temperature. So though you buy it in a liquid form, the moment that it reaches oxygen, it evaporates. And so getting that inside of the bellow diaphragm is the trick. And then, of course, as long as it's all sealed up and not leaking, it should work. It's, you know, sensitive. And kind of back to the barometric pressure versus temperature thing is well, which one is it? Well, it's both, because both are related. It's more so temperature variation because well, I shouldn't say that. It's the barometric pressure of the bellow canister itself, okay? But what's influencing that or affecting that is temperature variation more than atmospheric barometric changes, because you're not moving the clock between atmospheres. There's an atmosphere every 33 feet. You're not moving them between that. Like if you took the clock down to the bottom of the ocean, now you're using some of the atmospheric barometric pressure to wind the clock, hypothetically or whatever. But no, it's largely the temperature affecting the pressure of the gas itself. You know, if you heat that bellow up, you're going to pressurize it. You cool it down, like in the freezer, it's the gas will actually revert back to a liquid, and you'll lose pressure on the bellow drum there. Ooh, didn't get it on the first try. The streak has ended. There it is. Dr. Michael, thanks for the performance. Thanks for your answers. I have to go. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Dr. Michael, the medicine man, huh? I'm actually named after a famous doctor in my family. His name was Thomas Holman, and my middle name is Thomas, named after him. It's a very popular name in our family. Here we put the bad looking screws on the back side. Put the good ones on the front. Hello from Edinburgh, Scotland. All right. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Tuning in from Scotland. Fantastic. Yeah, Alan, by the way, I don't recommend you use the level. I have a video called How to Level Your Atmos Clock, and I use the balance tube position as the true level, thinking of that like a plumb bob hanging, rather than the spirit level. And that position of the balance tube is the truly important level. It's a short video, it's like a couple minutes long, but how to level the Atmos clock. Check that one out. I don't recommend the spirit levels. Just because they're you know, prone to be off, and then they don't really matter, to be honest with you. The balance tube is what really matters. Pretty good looking pallet fork here, not in too much trouble. Thanks for tuning in, Alan. Appreciate it. When you asked the question, that's fantastic. I was mentioning earlier, on this one we actually went into the locking mechanism, and I was mentioning how if that balance wheel is rubbing on the locking mechanism, rubbing on this bridge here between the movement stands, if it's touching any of that, it can stop or affect the timekeeping with those there. So that was kind of interesting that you mentioned that today. This is how I'm leveling it right now. I'm looking down, looking at that bridge, and watching the way that that pallet fork and collar hang over the hole. You want it directly over there. Don't want to see any gaps, and then that's how you know you've got it level. Do you believe in magic? I'm enjoying this vid. Thank you. Well, thank you, Colin, for watching. I appreciate it. Glad that you enjoy this. And here's one I offer to replace these top 4K screws. They're brown, they're oxidized like that. And I will go and get some. I have some fresh, brand new ones. We replaced those. I think it's like 55 bucks right now, but they're 24 karat gold and helps look a lot better. This one has kind of a rough case. It may need some help down the line. So I don't know if we'll do that on this one or not, but it's an option. And this is where I pause and I let it run here and I observe the motion. Balance rotation is the motion. Observe that, observe the pallet fork interaction, make sure everything's running well for, you know, at least 12 hours. Then I go and put the dial and hands on and then run it like that. Then I go and get this glass and whatnot case all cleaned up and wiped up. And as you notice, there's been some regulation done here with this lever, and I leave it where they have it. I don't go and move it back to center immediately. I leave it there and then start it and run it and see how it keeps time as it is here. If it ends up needing to go back, but the timekeeping should remain the same, there's a tool I press in here and I can realign that to center. I send them back with the lever in the center, but I just want to do some observation on it first to see how it looks, see how it runs. But thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. That's about it for today. Please click the like button. You know, make sure that YouTube knows that this is worth watching and suggesting to those who are interested. And I suppose I'll let this run here like this for a while, just so you guys can see that I have indeed turned this clock into a running clock here in front of your very eyes. And if you can see, you want to be looking right up here at this roller and pallet fork. And you can witness the power released from the pallet fork. It actually pushes the roller along, kind of hits it. if you guys are still around, I'll let you watch this as long as you like here, maybe a few more minutes, and then we can come back and take a look at some of the other Atmos clocks around. If you're still around, if you have to check out, have a great day, have a great weekend, happy holidays, and I appreciate all the views. You want to be on? You on video? You're not there. Come on, bud. Come on. Anybody still here? Oh, yes, 4 people. Well, very good. We just overhauled this 528. Has very good rotation coming around. And I look at the roller with the rotation, not necessarily the balance wheel. You could do either one, but you will get a longer rotation on your balance wheel itself versus the roller that can only go so far, about 360 or less than 360, 320. And it gets almost all the way to the edge of that pallet fork, and that's great. And over here we have some more Atmos running, and these are all clients' clocks. They are here for service. So one of them, let's see, well, they're all clients' clocks. One's for sale. Got the deep blue for sale on the website, and the 540 for sale. Get up closer, see if you can get a better look at some of them here. This one had a wire replacement job and it's nearly ready to go home. I'm getting a dial on that one. Got them up here. And there's me. Here we have all kinds of bellows. A few of them been refilled and are looking good. And here's Wally. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. Wally, can you sit? Can you sit down? Sit. Good boy. Can you sit pretty? Look at that. Can you sit pretty? Oh, yes, yes. I don't have anything. I know there's nothing here. Just you, bud. Yeah, just you. Can you say hi to people? Can you say hi to people across the world? This is Wally. He's a, how old is he? He's going to be 3. He's going to be 2 this January. He's a German Shepherd. Kind of a rare one. Rare German Shepherd. Oh, and that isn't all of them. Of course, we have the clocks here for service. These are all clients' clocks, doing them in the order they arrive here. And I have a list up on the wall to help me keep track of them, keep them all in order. My small parts dryer is a homemade jobber. A little heater, blower and heating element there. My rinse cleaner, more Atmos for service over here. Cases to be plated and finished up. More clocks running. More clocks for service stacked up. More clocks that have been serviced and running. This one's getting a case job. This one had a wire and getting the timing down correct on it. Got our wall clock there. That's pretty much what's going on here. Wally, you don't need to cry. Any other? No, nothing else. My pleasure enjoying this video. Very good, guys. Well, that's about it. I won't hold you up here, but we'll be back again. And if I don't see you prior to Christmas and whatnot, I wish you happy holidays and happy New Year. And we'll be back and we'll do some more Atmos clocks. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.